just over 100 days since the anti-government protests broke out in Iran following the death of Mahsa Amini at the hands of the Iranian morality police. And despite reports that there are more than 500 deaths during these protests, these demonstrations, of course, continue throughout the country. Joining us now to discuss the current situation is the political director of the Organization of Iranian American Communities, Dr. Majid Sadeghpour. Doctor, I appreciate you being with us. I'll never forget your kindness a couple weeks ago. We met at the Capitol, certainly during a luncheon attended by bipartisan lawmakers, where your organization was certainly lobbying for U.S. action when it comes to Iran's violent crackdown on these protesters. Tell us a little bit about what you've been able to accomplish.
Thank you for having me. Very, very nice to be with you today. And it was very good to meet you as well, albeit so brief. Well, as an organization of Iranian Americans living across the states, in 40 states, our advocacy is all volunteer advocacy. We don't engage in lobbying, but we advocate for what we hear in the streets of Iran. And let me begin there. As an organization that supports a democratic, secular, and non-nuclear republic in Iran, we get that motto from the streets of Iran. And as you mentioned, over 100 days in the streets of Iran, people are chanting across all provinces of the country that they don't want, and I quote, no Shah, no Sheikh, down with the dictator, down with the oppressor, be it the Shah or leader, referring to the present supreme leader and the former monarch of Iran. So the people of Iran are wanting a democratic republic. And we see that really reverberating within the Iranian American community, and more importantly, of course, within the policy forums and views that you see expressed in the United States Congress. So we were very pleased to host bipartisan members of the United States Senate. And as you heard yourself firsthand, are wanting the same as what the people of Iran have been chanting in the streets of Iran. And again, as you mentioned, also taking bullets of all ages. They're wanting a free democratic republic. And of course, America being the biggest and largest and most prominent free democratic secular republic, naturally should be supporting the people of Iran and their democratic aspirations. But what needs to occur is really what we need to do in the United States here and across the global community. That is, in fact, to actually help the Iranian people achieve that end. And that would involve holding the predators in Iran accountable. The regime in Iran has, over the past 4 decades, killed over 120,000 of best and brightest Iranian children. 30,000 of them were killed in the 1988 massacre of political prisoners. You saw the women leadership in these protests, and you see the women leadership in these protests. And it's really important to mention that these protests are not leaderless. It just cannot be an absolute theocracy.
Dr. Sadeghpour, before we go, and we're almost out of time, can you give us an update on the situation on the ground in Iran right now?
Yes. Protests continue, although it is not as widespread as spoken in the media. Protests continue every day across the country. Yes, oppression exists. Yes, people are being executed. But what we need to do is breathe life into that democratic movement. That means holding the predators in Iran accountable, expelling their diplomats from European and Western capitals, as the government of Albania did, because those bases are only to commit acts of terrorism and whitewash crimes against humanity. And more importantly, we need to recognize the Iranian opposition. We need to recognize the National Council of Resistance of Iran. We need to recognize the people of Iran's desire for democratic change and regime change.
Dr. Sadeghpour, we appreciate you being with us. We're going to continue to follow this very important story. It's been remarkable around the Capitol to see the memorials for, as you mentioned, all ages who have been demonstrating and protesting, even kids that have been killed in this, and certainly these demonstrations. We appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And still to come, we'll continue to take a look back at the life and, of course, the legacy